Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special top tier tea ranking video with me, your host, Giannis Geekoscopy, alongside my favorite horticulturist, and no one else who I could think that would be better to join me, none other than the plant prof himself, Dr. Vikram Baliga.
How are you today?
I'm doing really well. Happy to see you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on. We've been trying to get this coordinated for a while, so I'm excited that we finally get on and chat for a while.
You being quite a champ, being a little bit under the weather as well, joining me, so appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm doing okay, and I get to record from home today, so it works out fine.
Okay, so we decided to get a bunch of different teas that I've tried over the course of my lifespan. Don't know how many of these you've tried or dabbled with, but I think these are the main, mainstream teas. You can get a lot more weirder if you're a connoisseur. But yeah, I think these are the main ones. Have you tried any of most of these in your lifetime?
Yeah, I was looking through the list you sent, and I've tried maybe not all of them, but yeah, probably most of them.
Well, most of them are the same plant anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're familiar with the plant at least. So let's get into, I think, the basic of basic, which is especially for Indian people that I know, black tea. What do you think about black tea?
I really like black tea. Personally, I like strong flavors. I'm a coffee drinker. And so for those of you that can't see on the audio, I'm holding up my coffee cup with a robot on it. But so I personally like some of the stronger flavors in teas, because I'm used to sort of that more bitter, strong flavor out of my coffee. So I'm a big fan of black tea.
Yeah, black tea is, I think, a staple in my community where we are, Chatsworth, Durban, South Africa. And I think there's a lot of Indian communities around the world also. And I think between black tea, like plain, and like chai tea are the two probably big ones. Coffee seems to be one of those things that academics just like veer towards, I think, over the course of their career, as it helps with probably staying up at night reading a lot of papers. And also, closer to, I think, to the end, during the course of my PhD, I got a lot more into coffee than I did teas, kind of strayed away from teas. But I'm thinking of going back and trying to become a tea connoisseur now, trying as many different ones as I can. But black tea will always be a classic. And I think because of that, I would put it in A rank. What's your ranking for black tea?
So I had it, let's see, I'm looking at the list. Yeah, I had it in the A rank as well.
I think it's a staple, for sure. The next one, which is also kind of a staple, but more along the far east, I think, is green tea, which is a classic, I think, herbal kind of health food. I would suspect most people would have that perspective. What's your perspective of green tea?
It's, for me, it's a little bit hit or miss, in all honesty. I like green tea, I think, when it's done right, but at least here in the US, a lot of places where if you make it at home, I prefer to make it at home myself, because I can sort of, steep it as I like. But I got a green tea from, I don't want to say, brand names, but the big coffee giant that is on every corner in the US. I've gotten their green tea before, and it just, for some reason, it just doesn't taste right to me. It's a little more bitter than I feel like it should be in some cases. And so I'm a fan of green tea. I had it at C on my list. But I think personally, if I'm going to drink green tea, I would rather do it at home so I can do it the way that I like it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many forms you can get green tea in different qualities. So I agree with you that it can be hit or miss, but I drink green tea like almost every day, just for what I hope are antioxidants and health benefits. But also, I don't mind the taste. So I would probably lean more towards B or A. So I think probably we could drop it in B as a fair enough ranking. Unless you're hard in the C.
No. Again, for me, a good green tea is very good, and so I'll qualify it. I'll say that I like at the B level a good green tea, but sometimes it drops down the list for me depending on where I am.
For sure. I would also agree that probably making it yourself is better than getting it from a store, especially because like they probably like multiply the price by 10 when they're serving it to you. I think we had something else on the list, but we should probably go straight to matcha tea because it's in the same realm of existence, but obviously much more expensive due to, well, the quality and how you make it. When it comes to green tea, I believe that the plants are shaded for a couple of weeks, so the leaves get greener for more chlorophyll. Do they do that for any other types of crops that you know?
That is an interesting question. Not a lot. I read in some like some leafy green. I mean, it's something you would do for leafy greens, right? So I have read in some places they will cover spinach for a little bit prior to harvest. Partially, I think for some of that, partially to keep it from bolting, from flowering. Because once it flowers, it kind of ruins the leaves. It doesn't taste good. So I think some places will grow spinach in some shade for part of the life cycle. But, I think that is a pretty unique growing technique, for tea. And I think it's because tea is such a high value crop, and it's used all over the world that they can sort of justify the extra labor expense and extra time it takes to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And matcha, I believe, are younger shoots or younger leaves, but you get different grades the longer it goes. What do you think about matcha?
I don't have a lot of experience with matcha. I have tried it a few times, and I don't know if I've just kind of the same thing, never had it done right. But I have never been a big fan. And I don't know that I could tell you what it is, but there's something in the flavor of matcha that I find a little bit off-putting. And I hear that it's, in terms of antioxidants and some other proteins, things like that it's very good for you. And I'm still open to trying more of it to see if I can find a way that I like it. But I'm actually not a huge fan of matcha tea.
Yeah, matcha, I think it is quite a strong flavor. I believe the number is 10 times that of loose green tea in terms of antioxidant value. Every time I've had matcha, I've enjoyed it, but I think it's because of the setting. Like, I usually have it like a Japanese restaurant after like a bowl of ramen. And it kind of like brings the meal together, I suppose, just like in terms of like setting. I've had matcha ice cream as well, and I think it tasted pretty good. And I've had matcha lattes that taste really nice as well. So matcha for me is more on an A tier, but I can see how like if you try and prepare it yourself and it doesn't go well, or you could have, a hit and miss as well. So where did you place matcha?
I actually didn't even have it on my my top 5. But
So it's
again,
an unknown.
It's an unknown for me because again, I've only had it a couple of times really. And matcha ice cream actually sounds, I'm thinking through the flavors of it. And I think matcha ice cream actually sounds really good, or in a latte with, milk and a little sugar, I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
You know, real quick, I think you made an interesting point about the setting of it. You know, you don't necessarily think about like a tea pairing like you would like a wine pairing, but the things that you eat it with and the drink it with and the places that you do actually does seem like it would have a big impact. So I don't know that I have strong feelings against matcha. I have not experienced it enough. So that's something I'll need to
Just
add
have
to my
enough
list
experience.
to try more.
Hopefully I've inspired you to try a bit more matcha in your life. So in that case, I'll put it in B for no other reason that it's fairly new experience. Okay, I think next on the list. Wait, are there any more greens here?
There was a fruit infused green tea, at least.
Yeah. I think, fruit infused green tea can go two ways. Like, I think the ones that are infused like into a tea bag are really terrible. And I don't think I've enjoyed any one of those. But I think if you infuse like the fruit while you're steeping, I think that might go better. If you like dry the fruit and steep it with the leaves, that would be a lot better than the tea bags. Do you have much experience?
I've had a couple. I had one I really liked. Again, this was not on my, like, this was at the lower end kind of, because I agree that some of those tea bags are just not good. But I did have one that had dried pomegranate jewels in it. It was a loose leaf and hibiscus flowers. And that was very good. It had just enough acidity from the pomegranates and some sort of that rosy flavor from the hibiscus petals, the flowers. That was very good. So, you know, I would put that at maybe a C or a D, but I think that there are ways that you could prepare it that you can blend some of those flavors. I agree with you though. Like if you're going to get a fruit infused tea, like probably don't buy the bag. Either infuse it yourself or at least get loose leaf.
For sure, yeah. Some things just don't translate well when it goes into a tea bag. I'm not sure what the reason is. Maybe it just gets more oxidized. Did they put preservatives in there? I'm not sure.
I would think they would have to a certain extent because, you know, if you look at the expiration time on, and I don't know if that's an international thing, but at least in the US, if you look at the expiration date on a box of like tea bags, they seemingly last a very long time. And so there has to be something in it, whether it's just the way they seal it or they vacuum seal it or something. But I don't feel like, you know, I'm okay with it for like breakfast tea or whatever. You know, it's fine just for a daily cup of tea. But I think you lose some of the aromas and flavors and interesting notes you get with some of the more complex teas when you pack it and seal it up and put it in a box and ship it off or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Some things you just sort of try and like make yourself from scratch as well, just for it to be worth it. Okay. I think the closest thing to green tea is probably oolong tea, which it's a tea that uses both the stem, the buds, and the leaves. So it's a much stronger flavor. Oolong to me doesn't taste much different from green tea, but I've only had it in like a tea bag. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't have much experience with it. Have you?
No, not really. Kind of the same thing. We bought a box of tea bags one time, and it was fine. You know, I thought it was, like you said, very similar to green tea. I would put it below just a plain green tea personally, but it was. I don't have a whole lot of experience either. It was fine, you know, kind of value neutral for me.
For sure. But every time I think of the word oolong, I just think more of Dragon Ball Z than tea, actually.
I agree, 100%.
All right. Okay, so I think we're getting back to the blacks for a bit. let's go with English breakfast, which is just a blend of different black teas. Have you had it before?
I have, and I'm actually a big fan of English breakfast tea. I think, as far as something
Okay.
that I'm just going to drink on a, daily or regular basis, I think it has a good flavor, a good mix of things. So I'd put it up pretty high. I think I had it as an A
Okay.
on mine.
English breakfast, it does taste like a stronger, heavier black tea. And I do like it, but it makes me just feel heavier for some reason after I've had it. Like I've had like a good English breakfast after you've had like a cup. And I can see why you enjoy it if you like coffee as well. It's a stronger, heavier flavor. I would agree. I mean, for me, it'd probably be in between B and A. So I think your A would just push it up a bit. But English breakfast is a classic, and I think it is drunk very widely in Europe, at least Britain. I think their black tea is just English breakfast tea.
Yeah,
It's just
probably.
black tea for them. Another one that is quite popular is Ceylon blend black tea, and that tea is made up at pretty high altitudes in Sri Lanka, said to be high quality. Have you had any?
I don't know that I have. I was looking at that one, and I'm not sure that I have. So I'm not sure I have much of an opinion on that one.
I would say it's probably very similar to English breakfast. So I would just say for now B, just because I don't have it that often.
Yeah.
But it is associated with a very popular brand of tea in South Africa, Five Roses. So I'm sure some South Africans would not be happy that I put it in B tier, but they can let us know in the comment section. Okay, so another black tea would probably be chai spice, which is black tea with a bit of other spices to make it a bit spicier. And it's quite a staple in India. And at Starbucks as well. A lot of people like chai spice lattes.
Yeah.
How often do you have chai spice?
Growing up, I think I drank a lot of chai tea, or chai. It's not, I say chai tea, and I know that's kind of repetitive, but because that's what I'm used to hearing at Starbucks.
I found it.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big fan of chai. I would put that up near the top of the list for sure. Because if nothing else, it's nostalgic for me. My grandfather, who passed away last year, not anytime, but he would make chai often, and he loved it. It was one of his favorite things. And so, I love the flavors. I like the spiciness of it. It brings a lot of interesting notes out of the tea itself. But for me, even for just like the nostalgia factor, I would put it up, between S and A maybe, just because it's when I think about tea, that's what pops into my head.
For sure, chai spice or masala chai, I think, is a top tier tea for me as well, and especially a chai latte is pretty tasty, but even a regular cup of masala chai is top tier.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and put it at S. That's our first S. We're getting to the top teas here. I think another top tier tea for me is Earl Grey, which is black tea infused with an orange or a type of orange oil, bergamot. I've never heard of this orange before, but it's tasty, or at least for me as well.
Yeah, so bergamot is a herb, actually. It's like a leafy herb, and I think they mix it with the oranges or with the orange oil when they infuse it. I very much like Earl Grey too. I love the smell of Earl Grey tea.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's a great smell. Yeah, it's a very aromatic tea. I enjoy it.
It is, and are you familiar with the oleander plant?
The word sounds familiar, but I'm not too clued in.
So oleander is a perennial, like large shrub. that is incredibly toxic, like very, very like deadly poisonous. If you eat the leaf, actually, not just the leaves, any part of the plant, it is incredibly toxic. And we plant them all over the U.S. They're everywhere, like lining streets and sidewalks and, you know, whatever. But the flowers are these really bright colored, like pink, white, red flowers that to me smell exactly like Earl Grey tea with honey in them, with honey in it. For whatever reason, I know. Oh, I know. Every time I smell the flowers, that's exactly where my brain goes. Sort of this strong, spicy, almost like citrusy smell with a little bit of like, I don't know. So again, I would put Earl Grey up at the top as well.
Yeah. Also a favorite of my favorite Star Trek captain, Captain Picard. Earl Grey tea hot. It's a classic line.
Yep. Oh, see, and you are also correct that Picard is definitely the best captain.
For sure. I don't think there's any other option for me.
We could probably start a fight about that with a lot of people on the internet. But
a lot of people, yeah. Yeah, why don't we do kombucha? So kombucha is a fermented either black or green tea that gets, there's a lot of sugar in it that these SCOBY feed on. These, wait, what is it? Somebody will take, geez, I forgot the term. It's just bacteria and fungus that kind of grow in the tea and create this fizzy drink, which I adore. I love kombucha. What do you think about kombucha?
See, this is going to be the one I think we disagree on because I have tried my best. I know I'm supposed to like kombucha. I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but I have had it in several different forms, from like chilled to like in a tea and even like hard kombucha with like alcohol in it. And I cannot get into kombucha.
Yeah, that's interesting. The thing is that it is also hit and miss where like, well, I've never made any on my own. I've just bought like store-bought varieties, and there's not a lot of options. It's basically like two brands here in South Africa. The one brand I really like, and it's made with green tea. The other brand, they have a bunch of different flavors, and I don't think I've enjoyed any of the flavors it comes in. So I can understand how like you've had stuff that you don't enjoy. It might also be mental. I mean, you are like drinking a fungus and bacteria concoction.
And go ahead.
I just like the natural fizziness. It's much softer than like a soft drink, which has like, you just need like carbon dioxide like nuked into it. Whereas this is like a natural fermentation process that feels better for me than a soft drink.
I can get behind that for sure. And what's funny is like, I love mushrooms. Like I eat mushrooms a lot, and I don't have I think here's what I think the problem was. A friend of mine made their own kombucha one time, and I had no idea what it was at the time. And it was when it was first getting popular, and they invited me over and they showed me the SCOBY and like all this other stuff. And I was just like, I can't do this. Like, it's too much.
The SCOBY does look nasty. Like, if you don't know what it is, like, it does look nasty. But you don't get that in like a store-bought bottle. So I suppose maybe, that memory just you can't get it out of your head. So I think we could probably safely put it in B then. Let's go chamomile next. Chamomile is one of those decaffeinated teas. So there's no caffeine in it. And it's said to be something that's good to drink at night. From what I've read, interestingly enough, it's not a tea that originates like in any part of Asia. It's like from Europe, or at least that's what the Wikipedia article told me. And they also used to make beer and ale out of it as well, or parts of the plant, which is quite interesting. Any thoughts on chamomile?
I actually like it. I'm not a big like decaffeinated like fan. Like that's for me, it's almost a dirty word. But I like the light. Kind of for me, it's sort of like a summery flavor, right? It's really light and kind of airy, and I like chamomile plants. I'm familiar with they're these cute little daisies or daisy like looking flowers. we see it around here where I live. Actually, there's some like a native variety, I think, and so I would put that at like an A or a B. I'm actually a pretty big fan of chamomile.
Yeah, I would put it at an A as well. It is something nice to and light to drink at night. They get that part right. What was interesting is that I saw that there's probably no health benefits to it as far as like the science is concerned, which I thought was hilarious. It just feels healthy, but I'm not sure if it's actually doing anything in your body other than taste nice.
Yeah, well, and that is funny because I think there's a lot of things that are billed as like health food because of just the whole health food industry and the whole like trend of eating healthy and all this, which is good. I'm not, bashing on eating well. But there are some things. I had a conversation with a friend one time and they're like, "Oh, why are you drinking it? Or eating it? Does it do this or this?" I'm like, "No, I just like it. Like it just tastes good." So that's a perfectly acceptable reason to consume something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, we consume a lot of things that are probably not good for us, but taste really good and override whatever misgivings we might have about it. Let's see, what could we do next? I think let's go from one type of flower to another. Jasmine, sometimes with a green tea, black tea base. I've only had jasmine. Well, I've had jasmine a few times, but the first time I've had it wasn't in a restaurant, so it was more, I think, traditionally made. It was in a Thai restaurant, and I just fell in love with it. For every time after that, I think I've had them in tea bags, and they didn't taste as good, but I didn't like totally dislike it. But I'm a big fan of jasmine tea, especially with like Eastern type of food to go with it. What about you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I love jasmine in general. We had growing up, we had two or three big jasmine plants in pots that my granddad grew on the porch. And so, you would walk out the front door and just get hit with that fragrance. And jasmine's a beautiful plant and a beautiful smell. And yeah, I love jasmine tea. I think for me, that's an S or an A. I'll agree with you as well that like a lot of these out of a tea bag, it's just not the same. You kind of need like I would love to see a jasmine flower or two floating around in it, like I think that
Yeah.
adds to the experience.
Yeah, I've seen like on YouTube some teas that are like a bit dried, but it comes like in this bowl with the actual like whole flower, and like when you put hot water in it, it like blooms. Those are pretty cool. I need to get my hands on one of those. But I agree, it's S tier. Jasmine is pretty good. You just like the first time I had it, I just felt like lighter afterwards. It was quite interesting. It just opens up like your thought patterns. At least it did for me.
Yeah, no,
Just felt lighter.
jasmine for sure is a very like happy smell, happy flavor. It just kind of for me it's not like it's not the same smell or the same flavor, but for me like the smell of a fresh orange, like citrus, is a very happy flavor for me. Actually, if you've never smelled a citrus blossom, they're lovely. I mean, kind of they have kind of that same jasmine kind of smell feel to them. So for me in my brain, it like fresh citrus and jasmine kind of have that same reaction of just making me feel happy.
Yeah, I agree. So for the next one, I think we can go lemongrass, which I also had in that same Thai restaurant. And I also fell in love with it. I think lemongrass tea, especially a bit on the fresher side, is pretty nice. If you get them in tea bags as well, not that good. But I think if you buy like lemongrass, try them out by yourself and then infuse them, it's pretty good.
I don't know if I've ever had lemongrass tea, but it seems like our taste in different teas lines up pretty closely. So I'll trust your judgment on that one.
I think in that case, we can make that as a A-ish. Yeah, it's also one of those that goes nice with an Eastern type of meal. And it smells lemony since it's lemongrass and fresh. Speaking about fresh, what about ginger tea?
Yeah, I like ginger tea. For me, that's more of probably an A or a B. I think that the flavors are good. I like ginger a lot. I think it is that's one for me that is really easy to overdo. Like if you're not careful with how much ginger you're putting in, it is really easy to overdo that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I agree that it's probably an A. Just to go back to lemongrass, I just forgot I had an interesting note about it. There has been a scientific study that says that lemongrass tea could potentially help with increasing blood production. There's a blood production boosting effect, which I would not have expected. So it can be used as a treatment for anemia.
That's pretty interesting. You know, people plant it as well as a mosquito repellent. Now, whether or not it works, I don't know that there's good data on that either way. But it's it's interesting because in plant science there's a lot of like, I don't know, folk wisdom about plant this to get rid of this or plant this to do this. And like the science doesn't necessarily out, so to speak, on everything, but people have done it for thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever. So there has to be. I would think there's something to it, right? That maybe we just haven't found the mechanism yet, which is maybe an important point about science is that we have to keep trying because we don't really know everything.
Yeah, for sure. And it goes. I mean, it goes to say about the difference between like just like knowledge from experience versus knowledge like from testing stuff. Like sometimes experience trumps just like book reading, just because it's been done for so long and it's probably something that's helpful. And I mean, sometimes things like get through the cracks that are just nonsense, but it just gets passed down through tradition. But it doesn't mean you have to like throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes down to traditional stuff.
And at the very least, planting lemongrass or drinking lemongrass tea at the very least isn't going to hurt anything. So, if you like doing it, if you think it helps you in either way, I'm all for it,
Yeah, for sure. Ginger tea, when it comes to ginger tea, I think doing it fresh is probably better than getting, because what we get here are these like granules of like ginger and something else. And it makes like a nice tasting cup of tea, but I don't think my kidneys can handle it very well because I always end up with back pain later. So I've stopped drinking that form of ginger tea. But when we get sick here in a Hindu household, one of the things that your mother will feed you is a ginger milk that gets heated up on the stove, which is a classic. And yeah, I mean, ginger is a big thing in cooking curry. Like, so I probably have ginger always running through my veins at every point in my life.
Yeah, I would same thing. I would get fed warm milk with like ginger and maybe some turmeric or something in it, and I can't disprove that it helped. It may again it made me feel better. So whether it was placebo because my mom said this will make you feel better or not, I always enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. It tasted nice as well. Ginger milk tastes pretty good. Compared to some other things you have to take when you're sick, traditionally. I think the last thing left is rooibos tea, which is a local tea for us here in South Africa, otherwise known as red bush. That's what rooibos translates into. It's a tea that the UN, no, the EU, it's under one of the EU's list of protected products. So it's like very culturally important here. It's the same for jasmine tea as well in China. It's recognized as a globally important agricultural heritage system. That's the Fuzhou jasmine tea and tea culture system. So rooibos is similar to that here. And some people say that it helps with like stomach issues and stuff. So there's potentially some food as medicine stuff going on. I'm not sure about. I'd have to see whether there's actually any science to back that up. But I think it's one of our local crops that's starting to get out there throughout the world. I don't know if you guys have gotten some rooibos in your shelves yet.
I don't know. I've never had it, one way or the other, but that's something I would certainly be interested to try. I think, local and culturally significant things like that are really, really important and really interesting. We have a plant here called Yopon holly, that's native to a lot of my part of the United States. And during the cattle drives in the 1800s and even earlier through here, they would dry the leaves and brew it as a tea, but it has almost as much caffeine in it as a cup of coffee by weight. And so that will, just speaking of like local and regionally significant teas, Yopon tea is not a tea at all. It's just brewed leaves from the shrub, but it would be used in a similar way. So I think that's pretty interesting too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure every culture in every region has something that just they have that they can consume that can't be consumed anywhere else. Well, not until we got global transport of foods. But yeah, I would put rooibos tea probably at a B since you haven't tried it. And it's not something that I've had until like recently, because it's not I suppose that's not that popular in the little Chatsworth Indian township that I'm from. But throughout the rest of the country, it is a big deal in South Africa. So that's pretty much our 15 teas that we ranked. And our tops are probably chai, Earl Grey, and what was that? Jasmine. I think it was jasmine. I should have put words on the pictures.
That's okay. Yeah, I think chai, Earl Grey, and jasmine.
Falling at the bottom is fruit infused and oolong. Yeah, I don't think oolong separates itself too much from green tea for me. And yeah, fruit infused is hit and miss. And the rest, are pretty solid drinks to have on any day. Any overall thoughts about tea?
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm glad you came up with this idea to do this because, again, growing up, I drank a lot of tea, and probably since high school or my undergraduate, it's been pretty much just coffee. But my wife's American, and she very much likes tea. And so looking at this list and thinking through some of this, we've got a list of things to try and start making it home a little bit more. So I'm excited to get back into drinking tea a little bit.
Sure. I'm inspired you to try and be a connoisseur with me along my journey. But it's been a really fun chat. I think I learned a lot actually just Googling some of these. I didn't know some of the history, and it's quite interesting, especially the chamomile. That took me for a loop. Just how it's been used in ale, like you would not expect. Something like chamomile to make an ale from. So that was interesting. But overall, I think it was an interesting little exercise.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Cool. So thanks to everyone for listening and watching. So this will be up on the YouTube, on my YouTube, and Dr. Baliga's podcast. And if you guys have any questions, you can always chat to us on Twitter. I suppose is the best way for you.
Yeah, probably. That's probably the easiest way to get hold of me.
And me as well. At Plant Prof, or at Planthropology, and at Geekoscopy. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and cheers.